Hi, everybody. Dr. Lana Denny, Bulletproof Babes, self-defense based on behavioral sciences. If you're a woman who walks in the city a lot, you need to hear this safety tip because this is how it started. This week, my friend and I were walking down an alley to my office. Now, we're walking in the middle of the road, and coming up the alley was a young woman, and she was in business attire. She had a skirt on and her bag and everything. And that was not an anomaly, but behind her by about 20 paces was this really scruffy guy. Like, I don't know if he was homeless, but a street person kind of guy. And I just happened to notice them. Now, you can see this alley doesn't have a lot of people on it, right? It's kind of a one-way alley, doesn't have a lot of people or traffic. It's lined by apartment buildings and warehouses. And I can see him. They don't see me and my friend, but I could see them. She's walking, and he starts to close the distance behind her. He goes from about 20 feet to about 10 feet behind her. Then he happens to notice us, and he slows his stroll down a little bit. And now the distance between them starts to get greater. And I think, oh, okay, great. Maybe I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing here. And then as soon as they pass us, we get to the junction where we're going to make a turn. And I say to my friend, hey, let's wait up a second. And I turn and watch them. Now, here's where it gets interesting. He runs out between two parked cars and walks really, really fast to get in front of her and goes to cut up a driveway and jump out in front of her. And he does this. And he spots us and he stops. And that gives her some time to keep going. And then she hits a major street and turns the corner. So here's my point with this. If you feel that somebody is behind you and walking and closing that distance, first of all, if you have the option, get to where people are. That's the number one thing. If there's an open store or if there's a subway station, something where other people are. But that's just not an option in this alley. What she should have done was to jump out and be in the middle of the street. When you're in the middle of the street, people can see you better. These apartment buildings, they can see if you did attack her, she could scream, and she's much more visible. In these big buildings, you can only see at an angle down like this. You'd have to stick your head out to look and see what's happening right under the street. You do not want to be trapped between parked cars and buildings. Second of all, you can be pulled into something, and then into a doorway, into a crevice in between buildings, anything. You have much more room out in the street. And then also, if they're going to try to drag you off somewhere, it's just a longer distance that they have to cover. And in fact, this actually happened last year to a friend of ours. She had turned off onto a residential street from a major corridor, and she felt like this guy was closing the distance behind her, and she looked at him, and she definitely knew she was in trouble. And she looked over the opposite sidewalk, and his buddy's coming up the opposite sidewalk, and she knew, man, she is in danger. And what she did is she ran out into the middle of the street, and that was when they made their approach and attacked her. And she screamed really loudly. She kicked. A car came and laid on its horn. People were yelling down from the apartment buildings, I'm calling 911, get away from her. And they did get her purse, and she was a little scuffed up just because she was either pushed or she tripped, she hit the ground, but she just had a little rash. But as you know, dealing with two guys like that at night on the street, that could have been 100 times worse for her. That could have been something that she never came back from. So please, if you're walking on the street and you feel like there's somebody behind you, get out into the middle of the street, get out into traffic. It is the safest option for you if you cannot get to inside a store or someplace where there's a lot of other people. I hope that helps, and I'll see you soon.